Master, we've worked hard all night and caught nothing, but at your command, I will lower the nets. I don't know if this has happened to you, that you work on something and you're put in all the work, but it doesn't pan out, it doesn't work out. It can be very frustrating. You do everything right, get everything lined up, and it does not come out according to plan. At those moments, many times it's happened to me, I kind of look up at the Lord and I raise up my hand and says, look, Lord, I've done my part. It's time for you to step up. And the Lord, it's one of those moments where I want it all to work, but, sometimes it's outside of your control, and it just feels you kind of push up against your own limitations, your own frustrations. You can hear that sense of frustration in today's gospel with Peter. Now, bear in mind, Peter has been working hard all night with his friends, and he said he's been hopping all night and caught absolutely nothing. But here comes along Jesus. Now, bear in mind, Jesus is a carpenter, and he's telling the fishermen what to do. And you can see how outrageous this sounds. So you can imagine what Peter's going like, really? You can hear him saying, put out again. Do you not understand? Like, I've been working. I know with this job. I've been doing this. But Peter, you can sense that sense of faith, but yet doubt. There's that in between. He's just sort of sitting right there. And in those words, I don't know whether it was something that Jesus had said before that inspired him, or whether it was something that he had done, that he had witnessed, that had convinced him. But there was enough faith in him. There's enough faith in Jesus that he said, I've worked hard all night. He acknowledges the reality of his limitations, that it hasn't worked out, but that he still accepts and moves beyond his doubt into faith. He trusts him. See, there's this movement from limitation to invitation. And in that movement is the Lord is asking Simon Peter to trust in him, to look beyond his limitation and to trust in his providence. I think that's where we are called to do as well. I think that this movement from limitation to invitation is critical. And it's hard because, well, our limitation is being, in a sense, is up front for us to see. And that might be a limitation, or a personal limitation, some frustration, or something that we seem to have reached our limits, whether that be skills or whether that be opportunities, or maybe it's some suffering that's taken place in our own life or extended families, that we're kind of reached our limits. We can't take it anymore. It's too much. And the Lord is inviting us out of the limitation into His mercy and into His love. And it's hard. It's hard. That movement in between limitation to invitation, or a movement from doubt to faith, is the movement of discipleship. I had a recent sort of example of this. As many of you know, I had my hearing tested recently, and I found out that I'm 55% loss of hearing in both ears, and that I needed to get hearing aids. And it's hard to move that line, because you have to admit that you need hearing aids, you need help, that you're now limited. And that's hard to accept. Now, I'm not even 60, and I'm going like, oh my Lord, like, thought you meant to help me here. Come on, help me out. And it's hard, and it's real. It's that in between faith and doubt and struggle and limitation, and we have to accept that invitation. So this week, I got my hearing aids for the first time, and so you can't really see them, but they're there. And I can hear everything now. I can even hear you think. I just wanted you to know that. You're all shouting at me right now, but anyway. So, but this week, I heard something I haven't heard in decades. I didn't even know I was missing it because I'd forgotten it. It's the sound of chirping birds. Haven't heard it in decades because it's outside that range that I've lost. It was so shocking. When I started to hear it, I was like, oh my God, holy kimono, you guys are loud. And they were chirping everywhere, and I'm thinking, I walk the same path every day. Like nothing has changed. It's just that now I could hear those little birds. I can also hear the squirrels my dog goes after, by the way, too. Now I hear them. I say, oh, I know where they're going. Right? But it's that, the Lord, with God's grace, I had to accept the limitation, and then through the gift of doctors and technology, I now am able to restore, to be able to hear things I haven't heard in years. And in that, I see a movement that I'm also called to is not just to hear birds, but to go deeper, put out into deep water, and to hear the Lord call me to a deeper trust. If my own limitations in my own life, and our own limitations as maybe even a community, that we're called to push through those limitations and allow the Lord to lead us to where we may not think we can be. Now, there's a second movement in this gospel that's super important. Is that when the Lord tells them to put out in the deep, and they put out in the deep, they don't just get a catch, they get an abundant catch, super abundant. So much so that it fills their boat and the boat of their friends. And so here lies how the Lord works in our lives. Not only does he promise us abundance, but he promises superabundance. He promised not only to give to our needs, but to these there's even greater. You see, we're called in that moment, that gift that is given to him was not just given to them, or in this case, Peter. It was given to be shared with those around. So does Peter instinctually calls his friends, and they share in this superabundance. And see, if we can accept our limitations and accept the invitation to trust in the Lord, then we move into that superabundance where the Lord not only provides for us, but out of abundance supplies for us to share as well. This weekend, we launched the annual diocesan appeal, the bishop's call to share our resources. And the temptation is here, like, hey, we've done our part. I give to the church, I do this, and that's true, we do. And you are generous, and it's fantastic. But what we're called to do is to share in the superabundance. We are abundantly blessed at St. Simon's, more so than almost any other parish in the diocese. We have beautiful buildings, and we have generous volunteers and generous parishioners with their time, talent, and treasure. But what the bishop is inviting us to do is to go beyond that and to share this superabundance with others in need. And bear in mind, this is not collected for him. It's collected to help run the whole diocese, to help minister to those who are not able to reach that abundance, to care for those other parishes and those other needs, our future needs, like the education of seminarians for future priests, or the education of catechists in English and in Spanish and in Vietnamese, so we can reach all those people who are coming to our churches through the Institute for Leadership and Ministry and the ILM, and many other programs which the bishop cannot do without our help. And the temptation is our goal keeps on going up every year because, we're doing so well as a parish. And so we're asked to step up, and we're asked to help to do that out of our abundance. But we do something even more as a parish, because we've committed to that. Everything above our goal will go to one parish in our diocese who is deeply in need, Christ the King. We've been doing this for several years, as you know. And last year we were able to give them over $100,000 because you were so generous. And that's Christ the King and Father Hector. And since then, Father Hector's had leukemia. He still has 9 masses at the parish. He manages to do 9 masses from his rectory because he's not allowed to celebrate any public masses for now. 9 masses. And he's the only priest there, and he has other priests coming in to help. And the reason we've chosen him, because he's an incredibly hard worker, and he's not only just an incredibly hard worker, but he ministers to 3 different communities: English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. It's extraordinary amount. And by the way, most of you in Bible don't even know this. He's a father and a grandfather, by the way. Because when his wife died, he went into the seminary and he became a priest. And he works this hard for the community. And it's just so inspiring. I'm personally inspired by his story and his willingness to work so hard. So I'm asking you to support us in this annual diocesan appeal, to give to the rest of the diocese, but in a special way to give extra so that Christ the King can have extra. Because we're not keeping any of it. We're giving it all to them. And why? Because we've been abundantly blessed. Because we've accepted the invitation, and we know that the Lord has given us more than what we need, and we're called to share it with the greater community. So this week, the temptation is to get that envelope that we sent in the mail, is to look and put it aside. I ask you to please don't put it aside. Pull it out today and sign up for whatever you can. If you can do the same as last year or a little bit more, that's great. If you haven't done it before, I ask you, please consider doing it, because the Lord has given you this invitation to move beyond your doubt into abundance. In whatever ways you do, I thank you for that gift. But most important of all, we're called to listen to the Lord in our own lives. Not just the chirping of birds. We're called to listen deeper and to put out into deep. And to allow the Lord to call us beyond our limitations and to accept his invitation to trust. That's what Stephanie or Grant are going to do now in a few minutes when we baptize little Max Rome. And in that, they're trusting, and so are we called to trust. So I ask you to consider now in your own mind and heart and to listen to Peter's call. Lord, we've worked hard all night and we've caught nothing. But at your command, I will put out the nets.